Today is my 25th birthday, and it feels just like any other day. I bought myself a cake from the grocery store on my way home from work, nothing fancy, just a small chocolate one with happy birthday written in pink frosting. I didn't expect much celebration, but somehow I'd hoped things might be different this year. When I walked through the front door, no one even looked up. Mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner while my stepfather Greg lounged on the couch watching TV. His kids, Amber and Jason, were glued to their phones as usual. "I'm home," I announced, placing the cake on the kitchen counter. Mom glanced over. "Oh, Robin, is that a cake?" Her eyes widened suddenly. "Wait, is today your birthday?" And there it was, the familiar sting of being forgotten. "Yeah," I said simply, 25 today. Greg wandered into the kitchen, followed by Amber and Jason. "Well, happy birthday," he said with that fake smile I've grown to hate. "We didn't get you anything, but the most important thing isn't gifts, right? It's attention." Mom nodded in agreement, as if they hadn't just completely forgotten about me until I reminded them. I forced a smile and thanked them anyway. We sat around the table for an awkward birthday tea. I excused myself to change out of my work clothes and take a quick shower. When I returned, I discovered they'd devoured most of my cake, leaving me a pathetically small slice, typical. As I sat there picking at my tiny piece of cake, memories flooded back. This disregard wasn't new, it had been my reality for 7 years now, ever since Mom married Greg when I was 18, 2 years after Dad died. Dad's death hit us both hard. He was diagnosed with cancer and gone within months. Mom fell apart, and I tried to be strong for both of us. I was just 16 then, struggling to process my grief while watching Mom sink into depression. When she met Greg at her workplace a year later, I was actually relieved. He made her smile again, and that was enough for me. The timeline works out perfectly in my head. I was 18 when they got married, which coincided with me leaving for college in another state. Back then, I didn't notice how differently they treated me. I was rarely home, only returning during holidays, and I spent most of that time catching up with high school friends rather than at the house. After graduation, I moved back home because Mom called me in tears. "Greg's having health problems," she explained. "He can't work full-time anymore, and my salary isn't enough for the bills and the kids." Amber was 14 then, and Jason 12. So I agreed to stay. I found a decent job as a marketing assistant at a local firm and moved back into my childhood bedroom. I gave Mom a significant portion of my paycheck each month for bills, groceries, and other expenses. I didn't mind at first, they were family, after all, and family helps each other out. That's what Dad would have wanted. But things changed when I hit 23, the complaints started small at first. "Robin, don't you think you could contribute a bit more to the household expenses?" Mom would ask. "Everything's getting so expensive these days." Greg would grimace whenever I took work calls in the evening. "Do you have to talk so loudly? Some of us are trying to relax after a hard day." Then Amber started eyeing my room. "My room is way too small," she whined one night at dinner. "Robin's room is twice the size." "It's not fair." I sat silently through these complaints for months, trying to be understanding. But one night, after a particularly long day at work where I'd been passed over for a promotion, I snapped. "Robin, you really need to start giving us more for expenses," Mom said as we sat down for dinner. "The electric bill was outrageous this month." "And could you stop using the bathroom for so long in the mornings?" Amber added. "I'm always late for school because of you." "Yeah, and you eat all the good snacks," Jason chimed in. Something broke inside me. I threw my fork and knife onto the table with a loud clatter. "Are you kidding me right now?" I said, my voice rising. "I pay all the bills in this house. And in case you've all conveniently forgotten, this house legally belongs to me. Dad left it to me in his will. I'm letting you live in my house." The silence that followed was deafening. They all stared at me, shocked by my outburst. Mom's face flushed red, and Greg suddenly became very interested in his plate. They knew I was right, the house was mine. Dad had left it to me specifically before he died, along with a small inheritance that I'd used to pay the property taxes when I turned 18. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. Mom kept shooting me disapproving glances, but I refused to back down or apologize. Later that night, there was a soft knock on my bedroom door. Mom entered without waiting for my response. "We need to talk about what happened at dinner," she said, her voice stern. "You shouldn't have spoken to us like that. Bringing up that you own the house was completely unnecessary and hurtful." "Hurtful? What about how you all treat me? Like I'm a walking ATM and nothing more?" Mom's eyes welled with tears, her go-to tactic when confronted. "You're being selfish, Robin. We're family, we've given you a home." "I've given you a home," I corrected her. "This is my house." "See, there you go again. Your father would be so disappointed in you." With that parting shot, she left, closing the door firmly behind her. I lay back on my bed, tears streaming down my face. Was I being selfish? The doubt crept in, as it always did. Dad had raised me to value family above all else, but I don't think he'd intended for me to become a doormat. Still, I couldn't shake the guilt that followed me to sleep that night. That conversation happened 2 months ago. Things have been tense since then, with everyone walking on eggshells around each other. And now here I am, turning 25 with nothing to show for it except a tiny slice of store-bought cake and a family that barely remembers I exist. Christmas arrived faster than I expected. Despite the tension following my birthday fiasco, I still wanted to make the holiday special. I spent weeks carefully selecting gifts for everyone: a designer scarf for Mom, a premium whiskey set for Greg, the latest video game for Jason, and expensive perfume for Amber. I also gave Mom extra money for holiday expenses. "We're staying home this Christmas," Mom announced last week. "Just a quiet family celebration." Her emphasis on family felt pointed, as if reminding me of my supposed selfishness. I wrapped all the presents meticulously, hoping they might mend the rift between us. Silly me. Christmas morning arrived with the smell of Mom's cinnamon rolls wafting through the house. For a moment, it felt like old times, before Dad died, before Greg and his kids moved in, before I became the family ATM. I watched as they opened my gifts. Mom seemed genuinely pleased with her scarf, while Greg raised his eyebrows appreciatively at the whiskey. Jason immediately tore into the game packaging, and even Amber managed a reluctant thanks for the perfume. Then Mom handed me a small, poorly wrapped package. "This is from all of us," she said. Inside was a plain gray sweater with a clearance tag still attached. I recognized it from the sale rack at Target, $12.99, marked down from $24.99. I forced a smile. "Thank you." We gathered around the dining table for Christmas dinner. Mom had outdone herself with a feast: turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, 3 different vegetable sides. The formal china was out, something reserved for special occasions. As we finished the main course, Mom cleared her throat. "I have an announcement to make." She reached for Greg's hand, smiling at him proudly. Greg has fully recovered and returned to work full-time. Not only that, but he's received a promotion. He'll be the new regional manager, with a significant salary increase. Everyone clapped and cheered. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, I could cut back on supporting them financially. Maybe I could start saving for that trip to Europe I'd been dreaming about. "And," Mom continued, turning to me with an expression I couldn't quite read, "we've decided it's time for some changes around here. Since we no longer need your financial assistance, we think it's best if you move out." I nearly choked. "What?" "Amber will be taking your room," Mom continued as if she hadn't just dropped a bomb. "She's growing up and needs more space." Amber clapped her hands excitedly. "I've already picked out new paint colors. Thinking of a lavender theme." I stared at them, dumbfounded. "Let me get this straight. I've been paying your bills for 3 years, buying your groceries, supporting this entire household, and now that you don't need my money anymore, you're kicking me out?" "It's not like that, Robin. You're 25 now. Don't you think it's time you had your own place? Most people your age aren't still living with their parents." Most people my age aren't financially supporting their parents and step-siblings, I shot back. Amber laughed. If you want, you can still pay our bills and buy groceries. We won't say no to free money. Everyone at the table laughed, except me. I felt my face burning with humiliation and anger. Without another word, I got up and walked to my room, slamming the door behind me. I lay on my bed, listening to them continue their Christmas celebration downstairs. Their laughter drifted up through the floor, each burst like a knife twisting in my chest. As I lay there, memories of the past 3 years replayed in my mind like a movie reel of disappointments. The time I missed a friend's destination wedding because I couldn't afford both the trip and that month's bills. The promotion I turned down because it would have required relocation. The car I still drove, Dad's old Honda with 200,000 miles on it, because I couldn't justify buying a new one when Mom was always asking for just a little extra this month. And my birthdays. God, my birthdays. The past 7 years of forgotten or minimally acknowledged birthdays came rushing back. The time Mom got me dish towels. The year Greg's gift was a $5 coffee shop gift card. The birthday when Amber and Jason didn't even acknowledge me, too busy with their own lives to notice. Meanwhile, I remembered how I'd gone all out for their celebrations. For Mom's 50th, I organized a surprise party and got her the watch she'd been eyeing for months. For Amber's sweet 16, I contributed heavily to the lavish party Greg and Mom threw her. For Jason's birthday last year, I helped buy the gaming console he wanted. The anger built inside me like a pressure cooker. They'd used me, all of them, and now that Greg had this promotion, they were discarding me like yesterday's trash. Well, they seemed to have forgotten one crucial detail: this was my house. Dad left it to me when he died. He knew how much I loved this place, with its creaky third stair and the window seat in my bedroom where I used to read for hours. He made sure I would always have a home. And now they wanted to take that from me too? My sadness was rapidly giving way to a cold, calculated anger. If they thought they could push me around, they had another thing coming. I wasn't that naive 18-year-old anymore, desperate for her mother's approval and willing to do anything to keep peace in the family. I wiped my tears and sat up. Enough was enough. I'd been a doormat for too long. It was time to stand up for myself, really stand up. Not just momentary outbursts followed by guilt and acquiescence. I grabbed my laptop and started researching property laws, eviction processes, tenant rights, even though we had no formal rental agreement. I was the legal owner of this house, and it was time I started acting like it. As midnight approached and the sounds of celebration finally died down, I made my decision. They wanted me out? Fine. But they wouldn't be staying either. This house was mine, and I was done sharing it with people who didn't appreciate me. I woke up early the next morning with a clear plan. The house was silent, everyone was still asleep after their Christmas celebration. I threw on some clothes and crept down to the garage, where Dad used to keep his tools. There I found a sturdy wooden stake. Back in my room, I grabbed a piece of thick cardboard from my closet, the kind that comes with new dress shirts. Using a red marker, I carefully wrote "for sale" in big, bold letters. Next, I packed a bag with essential clothes and toiletries. I'd already found a hotel nearby with vacancy, nothing fancy, but clean and affordable for a few days while I figured out my next steps. Downstairs, I slipped out the front door and drove the stake into our front lawn, attaching my makeshift "for sale" sign. The ground was partially frozen, making it difficult, but my determination gave me strength. Once it was secure, I stepped back to look at it. Something about seeing those words made my decision feel real. I got in my car and drove away without looking back. The hotel was quiet, most guests having left after Christmas. I checked in, carried my bag to the room, and finally allowed myself to breathe. Turning on the TV for background noise, I sat on the bed and thought about what I'd just done. 3 hours later, my phone exploded. First came the calls, Mom, Greg, even Amber. Then the text messages started pouring in. Robin, what is this sign doing in our yard? Mom's first text read. Call us back immediately, demanded Greg. I ignored them all until the count reached 20 missed calls. Then I composed a single, clear message. The house is mine, I'm tired of how you all treat me. I've decided to sell it and buy myself an apartment near work. You should start looking for a new place to live. I don't want to see any of you right now. Mom's response was immediate. You can't do this to us, this is our home too, where are we supposed to go? Then, you're being cruel and greedy, after everything we've done for you. I laughed out loud at that and turned off my phone. I needed space to think without their guilt trips and manipulation. The week between Christmas and New Year's passed in a strange limbo. I extended my hotel stay, ignoring the growing number of missed calls and messages. On January 2nd, I found a short-term rental apartment and moved my few belongings there. My next step was contacting a lawyer. I found Thomas Harrington, who specialized in property law, and scheduled a consultation. So, he said after I explained my situation, you inherited the house from your father when you were 18, correct? Yes, along with a small amount of money that I used to pay the property taxes. He nodded, making notes, and since you moved back at age 22, you've been paying the utilities and contributing significantly to household expenses? Yes, about 70% of all household costs. And there was never any formal rental agreement between you and your mother? No, nothing written down. Thomas leaned back in his chair. Ms. Coleman, legally speaking, your position is very strong. You own the property outright. You've been paying the taxes and utilities. Without a lease agreement, your mother and her family are essentially guests in your home. So I can ask them to leave? Absolutely, we can prepare an eviction notice giving them reasonable time to vacate. 2 weeks is standard in cases like this. If they refuse to comply, we can involve the authorities. Relief washed over me. Let's do it. We drafted the eviction notice that day. It was formal and direct, giving Mom and Greg exactly 14 days to vacate the premises. Thomas suggested sending it by certified mail, ensuring they couldn't claim they never received it. 3 days later, Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. We need to talk, she said, her voice strained, face to face. I agreed to meet at a cafe downtown, neutral territory. When I arrived, Mom and Greg were already seated at a corner table. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, Greg looked uncomfortable. You can't be serious about this eviction, Mom said as soon as I sat down. I'm completely serious. But we have nowhere to go, she continued, tears forming. 2 weeks isn't enough time to find a place and move. You should have thought about that before telling me to move out of my own house on Christmas Day, I replied calmly. Greg leaned forward. Look, Robin, we were upset. Things got said that shouldn't have been. You can come back home, we won't even ask for money toward the bills anymore. I shook my head. It's too late for that. You made your feelings clear. Mom started crying openly now. You're being so cruel. After everything I've done for you, raising you, caring for you. I'll take you to court. I'll sue for all bills I paid while you were in college. I'd anticipated this, I already discussed that with my lawyer. If you sue me for all bills, I'll countersue for 7 years of rental payments for you living in my house. The average rent in our area is $1,800 per month. That's over $150,000 you'd owe me. The color drained from her face. She grabbed her purse and stormed out without another word, Greg following close behind. As I paid the bill and walked to my car, I realized this wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about standing up for myself and recognizing my own worth. For too long, I'd allowed them to take advantage of me, to make me feel like I was the selfish one for having boundaries. The next 2 weeks passed quickly. I threw myself into work during the day and spent evenings researching home renovations and local real estate values. If I was going to sell the house eventually, I wanted to get top dollar for it. The day of the eviction arrived. Thomas, my lawyer, suggested he accompany me to the house, just in case things got complicated. I agreed, grateful for the support. We pulled up to the curb at exactly 10 a.m. A moving truck was parked in the driveway, half filled with furniture and boxes. Mom, Greg, Amber, and Jason were all outside, working to load their belongings. When they spotted my car, they froze. Mom's face hardened into a mask of anger. Greg put his arm around her shoulders. Amber and Jason glared at me with undisguised hatred. "Good morning," Thomas said as we approached. "We're here to ensure the eviction proceeds as legally required." "We're going," Greg said tersely, "no need for the legal muscle. We've rented a place across town. Month to month until we figure something out." I nodded. "I'll wait in my car. Just let me know when you're done." As I turned to leave, Mom called out, "Is this really what your father would have wanted, Robin? For you to throw your family out on the street?" I stopped and faced her. "Dad wanted me to have security and people who loved me unconditionally. He wouldn't recognize the woman you've become." Her face crumpled, but I felt no satisfaction in her pain. Just sadness for what we'd lost. For the next 3 hours, I sat in my car watching them carry out their lives piece by piece. Furniture, appliances, boxes of clothes and books. Occasionally, Thomas would check on the progress, ensuring they weren't taking anything that belonged to the house itself. Thomas and I waited until the moving truck and their cars had disappeared down the street before entering the house. I braced myself for what I might find. It was worse than I expected. They'd taken everything they legally could, and then some. All the appliances were gone: refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, washer, and dryer. As Greg had said, the keys were on the kitchen counter, along with exposed wiring where light fixtures had been removed. In the bathrooms, they'd taken the shower heads, the towel racks, even the toilet paper holders. "They've stripped the place," Thomas observed, making notes on his clipboard. "Some of this may cross the line into property damage." I walked through each room, cataloging the destruction. In what had been my bedroom, they'd pulled up a section of carpet. In Amber's room, there were holes in the walls where shelving had been ripped out. The dining room chandelier, a fixture I'd loved since childhood, was gone. "Do you want to pursue further legal action?" Thomas asked. "We could make a case for damages." I considered it for a moment, then shook my head. "No, I just want this to be over." After Thomas left, I sat on the bottom step of the staircase, the only place left to sit since all the furniture was gone. The house was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavy and oppressive. I'd won. Technically, I had my house back, so why did I feel so empty? My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Kayla. "How did it go? Want me to come over?" "Please," I responded. 30 minutes later, Kayla arrived with takeout Chinese food, a bottle of wine, and a portable speaker. "First aid for the soul," she announced, setting everything down on the kitchen floor. We ate directly from the containers, sitting cross-legged on the bare floor. "So what's next?" she asked between bites of lo mein. "Repairs first," I said. "I've already called contractors for quotes on the essential stuff: plumbing, electrical, appliances. Then I'll decide whether to sell or stay." "And your mom?" I sighed. "I don't know. Part of me never wants to speak to her again, another part misses who she used to be." Kayla nodded understandingly. "You don't have to decide today, or even this year." We finished dinner and opened the wine. With music playing softly in the background, we walked through each room as I shared my renovation ideas. Fresh paint. New flooring. Updated fixtures. Turning the house back into a home, my home. "It's going to be beautiful," Kayla said, "and all yours." That night, I slept on a blow-up mattress in what used to be my bedroom. Despite the discomfort, I slept better than I had in months. No more walking on eggshells, no more guilt, no more feeling like an unwelcome guest in my own home. The next morning, I woke with the sunrise streaming through my uncurtained windows. I made a cup of instant coffee using a camping kettle Kayla had loaned me and sat on the window seat, the one feature of my room they couldn't take. As I looked out at the neighborhood waking up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. Not just for the house, but for myself. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into renovations. New appliances arrived. Plumbers fixed the bathroom fixtures. Electricians installed light fixtures and ceiling fans. I chose paint colors, flooring samples, cabinet hardware, all the details that would make this place mine again. The for sale sign remained on the lawn, not because I was in a hurry to sell, but as a reminder that this was my choice now. I could sell if I wanted to. I could stay if I wanted to. For once, the decision was entirely mine. Mom called once during this time. I let it go to voicemail. Robin, her message began, her voice small and uncertain. I miss you, can we talk, please? I saved the message but didn't return the call. Maybe someday I would be ready to rebuild that relationship, but not yet. First, I needed to rebuild myself. As spring arrived, bringing new life to the garden Dad had loved so much, I realized I wasn't ready to leave this place after all. Too many memories lived in these walls, both painful and precious. I took down the for sale sign and planted flowers in its place.